Reduced to its simplest terms, life is one. All is one. Clearly, you have an independent existence of me, and I of you, and we both of the table. But that's only one truth. A larger truth is that life is one. We are all facets of the one life. Our present limited state of consciousness does not immediately make it clear to us. And it's an information that has to be yielded in the course of science, investigation, history, and so on. That matter is one. There is only one fundamental substance in many forms. That energy is one. There is only one fundamental energy, and all energy is of the sun, etc. And also, consciousness is one, the great cosmic flow of consciousness. It's the fundamental, ultimately divine element in which all things have their existence. And the ancient Eastern mystics and the Western seers would in various ways attest to the fact that life is one. Energy is not independent of consciousness, and matter is most certainly not independent of energy. In fact, the findings of modern knowledge are that matter does not exist in the solidity that previous centuries had assumed. That when examined, matter is found to be energy, vibration. Particularly explosive vibration, if treated in certain ways. Just as then it's not immediately clear that life is one, but it is, so it's not immediately clear that the division between inner and outer is false. What we see around us does not exist independently of our consciousness, the organism of our consciousness. And our consciousness does not exist independently of the life around. Having established that, inner and outer are one. Inner and outer are one. It is impossible to say what this is. We establish a working hypothesis. We create a model which assists our communication, assists whatever function we have to perform. It is a working model. It is not the truth. The chemist will produce one formula. The physicist will produce another formula. The metaphysician will produce another formula. And taking all these into account, we find a blanket formula to accommodate the lot, don't we? Is that right? What I'm coming down to is that we have an agreed working model as to what this is. But you are not identical to me. You perceive this by touch, by sight, by the ear, through the five senses. More than that, in the latest findings of psychophysiology, through the 25 senses, but certainly through the five senses. You perceive this, and I perceive this. But your instrument is different from mine. Your eyes are not the same as mine. Your brain is not identical to mine. Our proportions are somewhat different. There is no knowing what picture your eye makes of that, and what picture my eye makes of that, and whether those pictures are identical. Is that so? Your eyes are not identical to mine. The eye is a little camera. It could be...
The thing have its own reality separate from what I see and what you see.
Listen. The eye is a camera. Nature could have created the eye as a microscope. And the world we saw around us would be totally different. Or nature could have given us eyes which were not cameras but telescopes. And the world we saw around us would be completely different. And one thing's for sure, eyes differ. People have to wear different sorts of glasses. And what they see is considerably at variance. Now, when it comes down to value judgments, there's something else you see. What you see, what you hear, may to one person be very pleasing. Something may be very pleasing. Music, one of the mysteries of life is music. One person hears a certain sequence of sounds and says, "How marvellous." Someone else hears it and thinks, "How dreadful. What an awful noise." Not only that, the same person at different stages of their life may read something, may hear something, may see something. And at one time in their life it may have been pleasing. At another time in their life it's displeasing. And vice versa. What I'm saying is, first of all, the physical instrument does not apprehend the world around us in the same way with each person. We each see, literally see differently. Not only that, we see differently at different times. And obviously something exists around us. What exists around us is vibration. The only certain thing that exists is that the universe is in vibration. Life is vibration. That vibration impinges upon us in some small degree, we are able to respond to it fairly obviously through 5 senses. Rather less obviously, science tells us, in fact, through 25 senses, and maybe many more. But even how many senses we may have, demonstrable or not, we still don't know whether we have senses enough to respond to the totality, the whole. So we're responding to vibration. And the signal is conducted to the brain. And according then to your point of view, either the brain converts what you see into your picture, the picture you create, or the mind does. Let's for convenience say the mind. The mind creates the picture. And no two people's pictures are the same, for obvious physical reasons, and probably for much less obvious subtle reasons. But the universe is not only without, the universe is within. There is the universe without, there is the universe within. And the artificiality of that distinction is really very plain if we start advancing into yoga. Because if we give any credibility at all to yoga, reality is within. Truth is within. At the same time, reality is everywhere, and truth is everywhere. But if reality, truth, the divine intelligence, is the teacher, is the guide, and if that guide is in the heart of man, it is the teacher that brings to us in many forms, the inner guide that brings to us in many forms, the truth that needs to be revealed, the truth we need to know, the truth we are ready to receive at a certain time. If the great teachers, Buddha, Vivekananda, Ramana Maharishi, Krishnamurti, if they come to us, the first facts that can be observed is that some can creatively respond to the stimulus they offer, and others do not. And we could probably say the same thing as we do about music, about anything else. It doesn't appear the same to any two people, and may well appear different at different times. Suddenly, at some stage, you've heard music. You'd heard the same sound before, but you hadn't heard it. Or you've seen the same teacher before, but you haven't really clicked. Is that so? Now, it is the intelligence which gives the picture of what is interacting with you. Isn't it? You are creating that picture. You are creating your own universe. And if the truth within you is able to see the truth without, you can only see the truth without because the truth within is revealing itself to you first in that externalized form. You can look at this conversely, perhaps. The truth in the Buddha, the truth that is the Buddha, the truth in Christ, the truth that is the Christ. What happens when Jesus of Nazareth walks up to a stranger and says, "Follow me"? And he arose and followed. Hypnotism? That's a possible hypothesis. I would dismiss it as an unsatisfactory hypothesis. Some sort of reprehensible charisma. Because there are the leader types, there are the charismatic types. Who will spellbind others so that they lose their freedom of identity. Is that what happened? Was it in fact a reprehensible thing that he said, "Follow me," and they arose and followed? It's not very democratic. Some would say it's even quite insulting to say, "I'm the shepherd and ye are my sheep, ba ba." But what was it? Could it be this? We're looking at it conversely now. That the truth that was Christ was in immediate and spontaneous relationship with the truth in the other. In, say, Peter or John or James or Matthew. There was already the connection between the Christ that was in Jesus, the Christ that was Jesus, and the Christ that is the truth in the other. That connection already existed. It was the same thing, the same truth. And the great teacher addresses himself not to our normal level of understanding, which has sufficient stimulus all the time, but to something much beyond. The great teacher addresses himself first to the truth within us. And what happens then? In a way, it's an inadequate analogy, but yesterday I believe I likened the conscious mind to a sort of valve which limits the admission of signals and limits the secretion, the dispersal of signals. A sort of two-way thing. When the truth that was Christ had identified itself, had invoked and was identical with the truth in the other, there was, at one level, total unanimity. But the conscious mind of the disciple was not yet ready to receive the impact of that full awareness, that full comprehension. But it was his own deeper nature which compelled him to arise and follow, his own inner being that is ever free. Created an action in the organism which resulted in he arose and followed. The conscious mind, as is always the case, when a great experience, when a great truth presents itself, would only catch up, if at all, at some later stage, when it had sorted things out a bit. But the spontaneous impact of the immediate relationship caused the truth of that moment to flower. Conversely, going back to the first form, it was the truth in the disciple that is burgeoning, that is coming, that projects itself upon the one who is without, called the prophet, called the Christ, called the Buddha, and enables him to see and to know that this is the truth. But the conscious mind is not yet equipped to integrate with the truth within. And so the truth within projects it. Are you with me? Absolutely impossible to say if Christ is without or if Christ is within. In the infinity, there is no up, down, or sideways,
no
or inner or out. No.
There's no movement.
So is it therefore possible to argue that if you see something outside, it's almost an omen of something that's going to occur inside at some stage? Or not?
There are signs, there are signals, there are indications, there are omens all around us if we have the eyes to see and the ears to hear with. The world around us is full of symbols, and in the last analysis they are our self-projections. The responsibility we have for the creation of the universe we know is vast. Vast. But of course, life is one. And We're all part of a process. We're all part of the flow of consciousness. We're all part of the one life, the one energy. And under the law, the great benign law that regulates all things, we interrelate, we interact. According to the needs of our development. According to that need, so is our experience. It's our privilege to be where we are, as we are. And if we only open our eyes and our ears, things will become very, very different. Our responsibility, our yoga, is to tune the instrument, the psychophysical totality, to tune the instrument, so that the truth within, the Lord within, who is indivisible from the Lord without. Indeed, there is no within and no without. The mind has created that, just as the mind has created the division of subject and object. Just as the mind has created the limitations of egocentricity, the limitations of three-dimensionality. All our limitations are our own creation. And our responsibility is to so tune the instrument to the divine purpose which dwells within and without. That it can be fit and fruitful to allow the higher purpose to unfold with all due and proper effect. Ultimately, there is only one teacher. The teacher is the divine God. And the divine is so close as to be the inmost reality of yourself, just as it is the inmost reality of everything that exists. And that truth, that infinite truth, is one. But your state of vision will cognize it as without, and fragmented, and partial, or not see it at all. Although, of course, in the case of the Christ and the Buddha, etc., that is not possible. It is not possible to ignore the Christ or any great teacher. That's a misapprehension. Because there is immediate inner rapport with all around, when the avatar appears, the Krishna, the Buddha, the Christ, there is immediate rapport with the truth in all things. And that spontaneous relationship, which is invoked by the avatar, will create an impact on the conscious mind. And according to the readiness of those who have this experience of the encounter, some will react fruitfully, and some will counter-react. Some will respond destructively. Some will be unable to withstand the impact of the experience and the self-revelation that brings to the conscious mind. And they will try to remove the vision by eliminating the man. It won't happen, of course, but that's what they do. So to sum up, what I'm saying is if you take the case of the Christ, the Buddha, the Krishna, I'm not saying that the avatar does not exist without. All I'm saying is it is impossible to say what exists without. And what you cognize is really your own creation. It is the truth in you, insofar as it has integrated with your understanding. It is the truth in you that presents your vision of the world. Which is only another way of saying we are a mass of barriers, energy blocks. We are a mechanism of mirage-making incompleteness. And the function of yoga is to refine all these blockages away, all these toxic accumulations must be eliminated. And yoga is the healing process, the therapeutic process by which this integration develops. Integration is the end point. Yoga means integration. From the Sanskrit verb yug, to yoke, to join, to unite, to integrate, to make whole. Healing is making whole. And the word wholeness has the same derivation as the word holiness. the inextricable connection between the beauty of truth and the reality of healing. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make ye free. Wholeness, integration, holiness, freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom from the distorted vision of our incomplete state of integration. Put another way, as long as the Christ within, as long as the Buddha within, as long as the Krishna within is unable to view the universe clearly through these eyes and ears, so long must the transitional, the healing and the cleansing process be the fundamental purpose of the unfolding processes of nature. One of the memorable phrases in Khalil Gibran is, God listens not to your words, save when he speaks them through your lips. And I would imagine that this has something to do with the promise of the power to become sons of God. Or the promise of the power to become a Buddha. Promise of the power to become a Jiva Mukta, or what have you. And this is what yoga is all about. We need our models by which to function, so that we have, instead of a unanimity of vision, we have a shared and agreed pattern, so that we will conveniently interpret accordingly. But when a deeper truth presents itself, we should never be so possessed by our formulae, by our systems, by our patterns, by any of the inventions of thought, that we cannot let go of them and allow the higher to reveal itself, whatever and whenever that higher may be seeking to express itself. With us, through us. It's amazing, really, There's magic everywhere. You are magic. Dammed up, bunged up, mucked up magic. But it's there. Let's see a little bit of that flashing magic sometimes. And as for the after-death state, that is as false a contradistinction as within, without, subject, object, past, future, all that matters is know thyself now. Now. Because whatever's said about the after-death state is mere information. What good is information? It only serves a purpose if we have to make a model. I could tell you a lot about the after-death state, actually. It cost you another 10 quid. And it's copyright. But what matters is now. That's all that matters. What is happening now? And what is happening now, what can happen, what should happen now, is magic. Did you have a question? Sir Longshanks, did you have a question?
No, it wasn't me, Alan. It was somebody over
No,
there.
but didn't you have a question earlier?
Yes,
Didn't you say something?
No, I didn't.
you did.
You did.
That was only a supplementary to Peter's question. And you answered it.
Rose.
Yes. Some while ago, I think you said something to the effect that profound truths are sometimes manifested in very unlikely guises. And I'd like to hear from you about humour. And what exactly is it, and what is going on when we laugh? I mean, apart from a release of tension.
It would help if people would ask me questions I was able to answer. What were you going to say? Yes. Didn't you wag a hand?
Rose got a question.
Oh. Desperately pointing away from yourself.
There's so much theorising about what humour is, and I'm sure we could cut through all this verbiage and with the kind of approaches that we have in yoga.
Well, I've only 2 observations to make about laughter. 3 observations. One is, it's undoubtedly very therapeutic. And it is blockage removing. Coughing is blockage removing, the coughing mechanism. The laughter mechanism is similar to it. And they are both curiously close to Bhastrika. What exactly it is working on in the nervous system is something to be specified at some later stage of human knowledge, I think. But it is beneficial, it is therapeutic, and it brings me to a further point. I keep finding cinemas closing. The cinema has existed for how long? Best part of 70 years, hasn't it? And the literature of the cinema is vast, and it includes a repertoire, much of it of genius, concerned with inducing laughter. And I should like to see on the National Health one of these cinemas converted to a laughter cinema where anyone can go any time and have a good old belly laugh. I'm sure. Do you know, when I used to teach in a mental hospital, officially I was there to teach yoga. And between you and me, the therapists there, I mean, as a yoga class, it was a washout, complete washout, because of the limitations of those taking part. But the therapists there thought it was marvellous, because for an hour and a half, it actually succeeded in gaining people's attention to a degree that other things didn't. And I'm sure the most therapeutic thing I did was get them to laugh. And I supplemented my own feeble efforts by bringing along Johnny, for example, from time to time. And doing things like telling them, there's a friend of mine I'm expecting this morning. Don't take any notice of him, he's mad. And then Johnny would enter. There were double doors that swung open. Johnny would enter, pushing the doors open, walking on his hands, you see. His jokes were extremely, no. His jokes were limited in content, shall we say, and very basic. And sort of, hello, 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 here we are again, you see, that sort of stuff. But it did for them what the doctors didn't do. And they felt a lot better. That is a fact. That is a fact. It's to get one of the blockages, one of the insufficiencies of our experience is that we don't laugh enough. There's not spontaneous and eager delight enough in our everyday encounters. We don't touch each other enough. And I'm not advocating this encounter stuff, which I think is just another way of being daft, from what I've heard about it. And possibly we don't weep enough. We're blocked off in many ways. But yes, it would work wonders, I'm sure, for our morale, for our national sense of purpose and health, and would have a measurably advantageous effect on the National Health Service if we could find ways of increasing laughter. And there should be, in London, there should be in every big city, there should be one cinema devoted to laughter. And all the parade of geniuses of laughter, you go there any time of the day and know you get a good laugh. I always say these things 20 years before they happen. And they finally catch up. Sorry, Rosa.
No, it's very true because, you know, we get together, my family, every Thursday, and we have a jolly good laugh. And sometimes we have a jolly good cry. But we always feel a lot better for it. And with yoga, you are not ashamed to show your feelings. As that's half the trouble. People are ashamed. They keep it all inside where it would be much better out. You know. But with yoga, it's you are you, you're a person.
We are British.
No sex, we're British.
It's true, actually. People sometimes say to me, "You've got a dreadful laugh." but it's me yoga does it, see? It would really be a good thing if we all had a good oriental belly laugh that convulsed.
I don't think we sing enough either.
Well, that brings us to music. What is music? Why is music?
When I was in France, about, I suppose it was 4 years ago, and they were all very, you know, it was Paris, and all sort of very moaning and all.
Well, they're
And
foreigners.
she said, Madam, she said, you know, we don't sing anymore. We've forgotten how to sing here. You know, in Paris now, we don't have any singing. And her son of 17 was rather, well, difficult and a little depressed. And, the specialist said, now, get him to go with a group that sing. So the mother in some way introduced him, telling the people individual to ask him to come. And in the end, several members of the family went, and they were all a lot better for it. Singing.
We do get the old people.
It's an expression that's good. People can't always, you only listen to music. Lots of people can't play, but most people can sing. I think choruses and singing is very good. The people very poor people in Wales, in the valleys, they seem to live very, very austere lives, and yet because of their groups of singing, and they all from the mind, and afterwards they go and sing, they seem to be very happy.
Is that true, Mr. Presley?
Well, it may be true 30 or 40 years ago,
But not today.
at the moment there are only 2 mines in the whole of the Rhondda Valley, so most of the singers are working in plastics factories.
Oh. And they've given up their singing, have they?
Pardon?
Have they given their singing up?
No, there's
No, I think it keeps them happy. It used to years ago.
Well, years
It's a great
ago,
expression.
they didn't have much else, did they?
No.
Except their singing. Now they have a little more.
Reminds me, I saw a record cover the other day. One of the funniest bits of unconscious humour I've seen for a long time. You probably know that there's a very posh, sophisticated, superior, artistically superior, frightfully third programme group of musicians called the Ambrosian Singers. You do know that, don't you? You've heard of the Ambrosian Singers? Yeah. And you encounter them at, say, the Queen Elizabeth Hall, and they're all in evening dress and so on, and the decorum is impeccable, as befits the nature of the music they sing, very refined stuff. I picked up a record that said African Mass, and it had pictures on it of magnificent abandoned Africans, the most highly painted and bone stuck through the face type Africans that I've ever seen, with horns on and so on and so on. African Mass, it said, with all these wild men on it, and at the bottom it said the Ambrosian Singers. The sort of people who come from Oxford, you know. So what is laughter? There is another aspect to laughter. Laughter is one of the ways by which we escape from looking intelligently at something. We start to laugh about it, indulge our laughter, and withdraw our intelligent attention. Frequently we may do the same thing with weeping. We start to wail about it and cease to be intelligently regarding it. We escape into laughter or into weeping. So laughter is also an escape route and is unintelligent. When I first heard Krishnamurti, one of the phrases frequently on his lips, because some of his scathing remarks were cutting, and not to the victim but to others, they could be quite funny. So people laughed, and he would say, "Please do not laugh. Do not escape into laughter. Let us look at this. Let us look at this problem. Look at it very carefully. Don't escape into laughter." Another fact is, very frequently, unconsciously and in varying degrees, laughter is sadistic. It's a sadistic indulgence. And that's something we have to hold in the front of our minds. One has to be aware of what one does, why one does it. One has to watch why one indulges all things. vast areas of our inquiry arise because they are an indulgence, an escape from the intelligent regarding of the self-mess. And so we turn to various forms of escapist sensation, which may be a chemical kick, it may be an emotional kick, or a psychological kick or trick. So often, religion or phony philosophies or quack versions of yoga come into all this. The kick trick. It's curious, the dichotomy in intelligence. I was once staying at a house at Hastings where there tended to be a number of colonels from time to time. And there was a colonel there who, his record showed he was a brave man. He had letters to show it. He was well known in spiritualist circles and had written on spirits and had knowledge about the after-death state. And we fell into conversation one day, and it was quite obvious he was very good. He'd become very practiced at uttering certain provocative and stimulating views which could be entertaining and intriguing to the sort of parlour room audiences that he was accustomed to. And we talked a little bit, and he began telling me about the after-death state. And after a little while, just casually, I said, "What has this to do with the essential problem?" Because he was telling me about the wisdom that comes from communication with the spirits and so on. He said, "What's the essential problem?" And I said, "Well, what are we to do about this preposterous mess that is me and you? What do we do about it? Does this help us with the essential problem? Because it is a mess, isn't it? You might not be as big a mess as I am. I'm quite sure you are a mess. And you know, he became agitated. Do you know what happened? He wouldn't come down for lunch. Stayed up in his room and said he had a headache. Because the way I talked gave him a headache. Think yourself lucky you haven't got a headache. It's curious. He could brave the bombs and shells in battle, but he couldn't exchange a few words with old Babington. Isn't it peculiar? Isn't it peculiar? As soon as we begin to be serious about tackling the mess that is here and now, the long-established tendencies to many forms of escapism will assert themselves and will rebel and cause us to feel very disturbed. Fact. This is the essential journey. It's the true pilgrimage. It is the traversing of the wasteland. It is the quest for the other shore. And when we arrive, we've really come home. We are the prodigal returned. And we go nowhere except to our true identity, which is the divine within. Is it time for tea?
It's called, I think it was Sort of Prayers. I got it here. And it really is very down to earth as he is, very amusing and real. One little bit I read, and I think it's a psychiatrist talking to someone who's saying, be a little fool. No, not a fool, what is it now? Be a little mad, it's the only way to live.
Sure.